Have you ever looked at your old art and wondered, what would it look like if I redid it? If I took the time away from current projects that I've been procrastinating for weeks, and for some months, to redraw those pieces of art, would I see progress? Or just a new excuse to create a YouTube video? A couple of months ago, I posted on my Instagram page that I was going to redraw some old art pieces, or classics, some would say. With those mighty words, I placed a poll with multiple pieces to see which three would come on top and be reborn. Some of them were very cut dry as to the winner of that selection, while others had to go through 2 or 3 battles of the polling system. It didn't help my husband purposely tried to tie them on several occasions just to mess with me. Eventually, these 3 came on top and were immediately sent to the black hole called Procreate. This piece was the speed paint for a video I created a while ago talking about a disintegrating community that was beginning to talk about topics on bullying, stealing art in channels, and some other similar discussions. I was always mixed on this piece, and still have, as I believe I didn't fully think through that video along with the composition of the piece. When it managed to make it as one I would redraw, I decided I wanted to try to become a bit happier with the piece. The first item of business was getting the ghostly heads and cries sketched before trying to make the big wolf appear. I'm not as thrilled with the nose and muzzle I did this time, but I managed to work out some kinks to my liking. The fur definitely became a lot fluffier, and I really tried to add a bit more anatomy and muscles to the legs. Sort of not proud of that either, but I think I was able to fix it when I sat them down. The biggest thing I noticed between my old piece and this one is the journey I had with fur. Comparing the 2 pieces, you can see more volume and texture in my new rendition, along with more attention to the way it laid out. I'm always looking at the way other artists have done their fur on wolves and other critters to help inspire me to continue my art journey. And that's probably the reason why I have pressed forward in my growth as an artist and not slumped yet. As I continue working on this piece, I took a moment to rewatch that video, and I'm not surprised it did so well compared to my other ones at that time. I was creating something that was more than just a piece of art. It was a moment for me to speak my thoughts to the community during that time. Now, I would say my thoughts have grown as I have as well. I have come to a greater understanding and broadened my perspective that we all have some growing up to do, and sometimes it takes an online community to help people understand when something is or isn't appropriate. From faking another channel to tracing art and placing that in a contest, not every kid and teenager knows that's wrong. And when they do, it's their choice to continue or to fix it. I was one to be quick to condemn at that time, but if you were to ask me now what my thoughts were on similar situations happening now, I would say it's a learning moment and their choice on which consequences they wanted to face. I wouldn't agree with their actions, nor would I support them, but I wouldn't bully them over their dumb decision or poor choices. All I can do is help them learn how to be better. And then slap them upside the head for not fixing their mistakes and making it happen over and over. Someone's got to do it, and if I'm an old one, I might as well make it part of my resume now. Editing silent here. I was looking through the video footage and you'll see it come up where I draw an arrow, some blood spurting out. I realized that when I did this piece, I had a big fear in blood and didn't like drawing it too much, and yet for some odd reason, looking at some of my art pieces, I've done that quite a few times where I drew blood, especially the spurting blood like you'll see here, on multiple occasions, or crying blood, and I don't know why, since I never liked it, but for some odd reason I was also drawn to wanting to do it. I don't know, a little bit weird to think about, but apparently that was just me being me. Now I noticed for some reason that they have decided that they get to watermark, so I apologize for the, I wouldn't say little, but the very obvious watermark on the bottom right, but maybe that means I need to start video recording when I do art. Although then again, the canvas goes all over and you are so fully blown up in the picture that you don't know what's happening unless I pull out. But anyway, back to this classic. I still have not figured out how to blend more properly on my Procreate. The context for this piece is very short and sweet. It was going to be their birthday and deserved a digital gift. Plus, it was a contest that would help me get my name out there more. How could I refuse? Now, I was excited for this piece, while dreading it, because I've sucked at doing front-facing animals. They have always been a struggle for me in my art path. I was determined, though, to make this piece a bigger learning moment for me. First things first, I got my links sketched out and got more detailed koi fish in place as they were going to help make or break the piece. Thankfully, after a long battle on a live stream, I managed to get some nice looking koi fish to do justice for Tundra. The other hiccup I had to overcome was finding and creating a better bubbly background for this moment to take place. I didn't want to do anything fancy as I wanted the bright fish and watchful links to be the main focus, which I believe worked perfectly while bringing in some magic to the picture. Comparing the two pieces, there's a large difference between how I used to draw and how I draw now. I also noticed that despite my fear of drawing a forward-facing cat, I had more confidence in my strokes. I also turned to more sources and photos of lynxes to gain the right kind of fringe and ears I desired. On top of my growth artistically, I also grew with my equipment as all of my work was done completely digitally when I created this piece. Most of my artwork at that time were done as a physical pencil on paper sketch, which I photographed and uploaded to iBis Paint X. There, I would complete the piece just my fingers and the small screen of my phone. To this day, I do not regret that time, as it helped me gain more respect and a desire to generate more support for current artists who are in that part of their journey. They are a force to be reckoned with. I learned and stretched so much during that time, both physically in my sketches and digitally with brushes and digital techniques, that I am proud of. Fun fact here, while I've been editing this video, I decided to pull up my channel to take a look at the other old videos I have done, and I've noticed the majority of them are copyright striked. Although I don't understand why I was copyrighted on my Wildcraft video where I was the only one talking the whole time. So I guess for some odd reason I did something that was copyright even though it was my own voice. But yeah, very interesting to look at and realize, my channel isn't doing much. I didn't have a lot of views. Yeah, and they've even copyrighted my tutorial that I did with a voiceover. YouTube's got to fix some things and maybe take a look at how people copyright, because a lot of this is stuff that I don't know why they got copyright strict to begin with. But who knows, maybe this one will too, because apparently my voice is something to behold with. Out of all of the pieces that won in the Instagram polls, this was the one that made me the most nervous, as that creator still follows and interacts with me. While the wolves weren't associated with any creator, and Tundra is more inactive on their community account, I faced the beast of the active growing artist Indigo Stars. With characters that I did and still truly have enjoyed drawing and hearing about their stories, their interactions, and what they have gone through, I was nervous for this piece, as DM'd me very excited about how much they wanted to see this piece come back to life and breathe new air, breathe the new me. But there was one little hiccup. The characters had changed. And at first I was like, oh, well, but I gotta stick to the original piece as best I can, as the goal is to redraw the piece, not do major editing to it. It's gotta be recognizable as the same piece. Well, it turns out they took care of a few things for me that I was worried about. First off, mess up with the piece for their eyes and, make it something they are proud of and happy to have, while also sticking to their idea of the original piece as much as I can. I believe I pulled it off very well. Their character, Kylo, still has the skull mask, but it's only used during a certain part in their story. And this scene was more associated with a different part of the story where he doesn't have the mask. So that took off my concern of trying to better draw the skull. I mean, I know I've done better. I've seen other pictures where I've done better with it, but I was nervous regardless. The other change was adding something a bit different with the characters, making them feel more involved with their environment. And that was the flower crown that her beautiful female lead got, which actually was a lot of fun. We got to talk about it, determine what kind of more flower crown they would like on their character, what would best with their post-apocalyptic world, and all that kind of stuff. But it made me nervous still, as I didn't want to comparing the two pieces, my old one and the new one, I realized that this is the only redrawing piece I've done for this video where the entire piece had been done digitally in the original video. It had been done in Procreate back when I had my iPad, like full on start near the journey of it and all that stuff. So excited, I was able to rewatch how I did my pieces. From the other part, I know stuck very similarly is dragging it over to Paint X to fix things. I need to figure out how to become more comfortable with Procreate. But until then, I see this as my ability to say, hey, you still keep your old roots, even as you grow as an artist. Another interesting thing about this piece that I did mention a little earlier in the video is I developed new techniques and gained new brushes through Procreate. And one of them was this grass. And at first I was like, oh, maybe I'll do more painter-esque kind of feel. But then I realized that it does not stick to my style. So I then went over and outlined everything that I wanted and then recolored the whole thing and reshaded the whole thing and just went on and on and on. So it was more or less a base layer as to how I wanted the stalks to look. Editing silent here. I forgot about this funny tidbit, but my husband, he loves seeing where I'm doing with my art. Very supportive, very happy to see that I'm doing something creative. And while I was doing this piece and I did the flower crown and I showed it to him, I was very happy with the bushels that I created and everything on it. And he immediately looked at the pinkish, orangish colored, they're supposed to be like berries, and he said, is that an olive? And I was so flabbergasted. I was like, no, it's not an olive. Why would you ever say that? So then I shared the picture with Indigo and told her what he said, and they agreed and said, yeah, no, it does look like there's olives on their head. So I have now created olives in flower crowns. You're welcome, world, for adding life to an olive for once. Now, the ultimate question is, what did I get from this? What did I learn? What was the purpose behind redrawing 3 old pieces of art? Well, first off, I got content, but the more important reason is I was able to see how much I've progressed. And sometimes, as artists, it's hard to see that we have done so much growth until we look back at what we used to do, especially when you redraw a piece. It shows you immensely how much your talent has grown and how much you have changed with your focus, your style, and how you approach your art.